All right, guys. So today I want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite JRPG series as of recently. Now, I have not been into this series for a long time, only in the past couple of years, and that is the Atelier series. I actually started off with Ryza, like a lot of people. I think that's what really popularized the series. However, I've also played Sophia and other ones like that after discovering the series. And I've even played the most recent one, Atelier Yumia, which I think by far is one of my most favorite ones. Now, to be fair, there's some things in that game I don't like as much compared to the Ryza series. But what's great is that they all do their own different things. So I still feel like Atelier Yumia holds a special place in my heart right next to the Ryza series. Even though there's some things about Ryza I like better, there's some things about Yumia I like better than Ryza. And that's just kind of how it is. But today we're actually going to be talking specifically about an interview with the producer of the series, and he talks about the struggle with satisfying both Asian and Western players, and he's talking about gameplay specifically. So let's go ahead and jump into this article real quick. So it starts off with Atelier series producer admits difficulty in trying to satisfy both Asian and Western gameplay demands, asks fans to keep on sharing their opinions. Now, I want to start off with how great it is to actually see developers asking for player feedback. You don't see that very often anymore. It's starting to happen a little bit more and more, which is great, but it's still not often enough. I really hope that more and more developers start asking for actual opinions on games, because in a lot of ways, we're just as much invested in the game as they are. So anyway, I can go on a whole nother speech about that, but let's continue on. So it says, according to the Atelier Yumia producer, and forgive me if I mispronounce this because I'm horrible with Japanese names sometimes, but Junzu Hosoi, while the franchise's recent boom of international success is certainly welcome, it also brings with it a distinct challenge of how to simultaneously satisfy the wildly different gameplay demands of both Asian and Western players. And what they're mostly talking about here is like, they seem to think a lot of Japanese developers seem to think that here in the West we love more action-oriented gameplay, which for the most part is true. But it is nice to get a break from that. That's kind of why Square developed the Final Fantasy VII Remake series the way they did. They made it more action-oriented. And the same thing goes with this particular series too. A lot of the older Atelier games were a lot more turn-based RPG. In fact, most of them are. It's only in recent years, ever since Ryza came out, that they started experimenting with different battle systems. Now, let's go on. It says, so offering his thoughts on the East and West divide during a recent interview with video game news outlet Automaton, Hosoi recalled, recently I went to Europe and North America for the first time to do some work regarding Atelier Yumia. There, I could actually feel the contrast between Asian and Western sentiment, as well as the differences between our way of thinking and the Western player's demands. Real quick, before I go on, I just want to say, like, I think games like Expedition 33 are really kind of starting to prove that even here in the West, we do yearn for more strategic turn-based type combat. Sometimes it is nice to just play an RPG, sit back, and command your team, analyze the battle and figure out, okay, what's the next best move. That's why there's so many Magic the Gathering players that I know, and Magic the Gathering is huge. Same thing with playing in D&D. There's a lot more strategy involved in the combat these days, compared to okay, so like growing up playing D&D, for example, the way we always played it was, I guess you can almost say, was more action oriented. We would just kind of play out the battle in our head and roll the dice. But I see a lot of people playing D&D now that actually have a whole map out and everything, that more so than what I used to see back then, and actually strategizing, where's your player at? Where are you in contrast to your party? And where's the enemy at? I see a way more of that now than I ever used to. So anyway, it says, for example, in the West, many players are looking for more straightforward, action-packed gameplay experience. He explained, however, in Asia, that kind of direction would be considered too simple, and players say they would rather like us to focus on making synthesis a staple of the Atelier series gameplay mechanic, which is basically the crafting system in this series, as its name suggests, invites players to fuse items together in order to make different ones stronger. I personally love doing that in the game. I'm always trying to find the best ingredients sense that I can to make stronger armor and weapons and usable items in the combat. I probably spend more time doing the synthesis than I actually go around playing the actual game. That's why I haven't even beat Yumia yet. But that is also because they introduced a building mechanic where you can actually build your base, kind of like in a survival game. And I spend way too much time tweaking that. Well, let's go on. So it also says, while hearing all these opinions make me realize how difficult game development actually is, I still want players to leave a Steam review or give us any kind of feedback because that's really valuable information for us. Hosoi concluded, that's why I want to tell all our players, keep on sharing your opinions with us. Though the producer was explicitly talking about the difference in East-West gameplay demands, some on social media had a knee-jerk reaction to Automaton's headline as the Atelier franchise goes global. A dev team is torn about how to reconcile Western and Japanese players' vastly differing demands and presumed it was instead talking about each region's differing views on attractive characters. Now, I'm going to get into that. That is another rant I want to go on, but we'll get into that in just a minute. However, while Hosai did admit during a 2023 interview with Nintendo Life that the series was making a conscious move away from fan service in service of wider audience appeal, please don't do that. It should be explicitly noted that the topic of character designs and art styles did not come up during his recent talk with Automation. So this particular interview was about gameplay, strictly. Further, despite this shift in art direction, fans can rest easy knowing the Atelier franchise is still delivering its fair share of attractive female characters. I can contest to that after playing Yumia. From the ample-chested Yumia and Atelier Yumia to the Atelier Risers line, titular heroine with her huge, and it says, personality. We'll just leave it at that. Actually, I actually kind of like Rise's personality. I like her character as a whole in that series. To the upcoming lead of Atelier Resilia. Okay, hold on. This is the first time I'm actually, as I'm making this video, I hadn't even heard of this yet. Atelier Resilia. I'm going to look into that. Ultimately, here, I'm just going to continue on because it just kind of briefly mentions it here. It doesn't really go into any. See, Rias, Hina, Kazuya creates a new item, Atelier Rosalia, the Red Alchemist, and the White Guardian. 20. I'm going to look into this. This looks interesting. I'm going to leave a screenshot up here for you to see the screenshot they posted. But anyway, ultimately, in light of various responses that their coverage received, their topics ranging from gameplay, art directions, or otherwise, Automation both thanked fans for their feedback and promised, we'll make sure to get your message across to the devs at Koei Tecmo. Now, yeah, this is a Koei Tecmo series. And I know there's a lot of you that have kind of seen Koei Tecmo try to go in different directions in the past. I mean, let's take Dead or Alive, for example. I believe it's them. Let me just make sure I'm not misinformation. But I'm pretty sure they do the Dead or Alive series. Yeah, they do. Okay, I was right. I just wanted to make sure. I don't want to say, oh, was it them? I was possibly thinking of a different company. But like, yeah, Dead or Alive is a series known for its fan service, and they tried to push that in a different direction, and that didn't work out so well for them. So now let me go ahead and get on this whole rant of the art direction for characters in Japanese versus, here in the West. We've already seen a huge difference in that. There was a time here in the West we used to make characters that actually looked good to look at, because if I'm going to play a game for hours, I'm sorry, but I'd like to have something good to look at while I'm playing the game. That's the whole reason I have this VTuber model. It's just something good to look at while I'm working on videos or doing live streams. I know a lot of people have asked me this, and I'm just going to say it again here. That's the reason why. But I really feel like there needs to be some way that we can get the message across to these Japanese developers that is what we want more of. We're constantly getting watered down versions of what the Japanese get. And unfortunately, now more so, I'm seeing stories and hearing about how what we're getting is the same thing the Japanese are getting, and they're not happy with it. Like, they want more fan service. I can tell you right now, I want to see if the developer wants to put fan service in their game, they should be allowed to do that. If they don't, that's okay. But more often than not, you see these Japanese developers kind of have the like mind that like they want to put those attractive character designs in there because that's what they like to see. And unfortunately, I feel like so many tourists have come into this space. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. Growing up, if you were into video games, D&D, Magic the Gathering, comic books, all these things that are or would be considered nerdy, which are now mainstream, you were shunned, you were an outcast, people made fun of you. Where I grew up, it was all about sports. People would always ask, like, why aren't you into sports? I hate sports. But now it's so mainstream, and we've let all these different people into the space, and it feels like these people came into the space that at one point shunned it. These are people, I'm pretty sure a lot of these people are people that at one point or another thought this stuff was stupid or too nerdy, and then now it's popular and it makes money, and they came into the space and they're like, okay, well, this is great and all, but I don't like how this and this is, so we're going to change it. And from my perspective, seeing how things have evolved to this point, that's what it looks like to me. And I'm so tired of these fucking tourists coming into our space and telling us that this all needs to change. And unfortunately, the Japanese saw this. And even back then, I will add that they still had a sense of what they thought we were like. They thought that they still needed to change and water down a few things even back then, not as much as now, but even back then they felt like they needed to water things down for us. And I'm here to tell you, they don't need to do that. Anyone who's into the Japanese RPGs, even with series like Atelier, Ryza, or the Atelier, even with the Final Fantasy series, or even with a lot of these JRPG series, stop watering it down. Give us exactly what you would give the Japanese audience. If someone wants to come in and complain about it, fuck them. Who cares? Because they're not a true fan to begin with. If you're coming into these series complaining about how the characters look, then you're not a real fan in the first place. I'm sorry. Don't care what you think. That's the facts. But I can go on a whole nother rant about that. But I am going to start probably making more videos. And I really, talking about, the differences between what the East is giving us compared to what we have. And I really want to find a way to get the message across more and more to Japanese developers that here in America, we want to see this type of stuff more. I want them to know they do not have to water things down just for us. So that's my rant on that, guys. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I would like to hear from you. And if you are new here, please consider giving it a like and consider giving me a subscription if you are enjoying the stuff so far. And as always, peace out.